Hello everyone and welcome back to another 0-hour video, this time to talk about how important it is to have a specific role and responsibilities within your team, especially when playing PvP. Today we will focus on the Overwatch role, which is by far my favorite one. Having a predefined role in mind helps selecting the kind of loadout that you will be using during the round. It makes things faster during the loadout phase, it helps with communication during the various phases as well as during the round, it helps with you choosing your spawn points, and it also helps optimizing your path to wherever you need to be to provide Overwatch for the rest of your team. Because you have a role and a specific loadout for it, there are limitations to what you can do and where you can be. Essentially, you will excel in some situations and you are most likely to perform poorly in others. So without further ado, let's deep dive in the different important aspects of this role. Let's start with what the Overwatch does and the responsibilities of this player. The role of the Overwatch is mostly, if not only, used when attacking. In a nutshell, the Overwatch helps the rest of the team with clearing and securing vital segments of the map that leads to the objectives, but ideally from the distance, from a different angle, and while being separated from the rest of the team, at least in most cases. While the rest of the team focuses on getting to the objective, the Overwatch focuses on watching their back. In a way, they kind of remote flank defenders. They prevent defenders from counter-pushing the attackers when breaching. They prevent defenders from rotating and relocating when flanking the attackers. They help covering angles that might be too risky to check for the breaching team. See this role as the Overwatch being a mix between a scout and a marksman. In terms of weapons, the best option for the Overwatch right now is to use the SCAR with an ACOG, no muzzle attachment beside maybe a suppressor once in a while if you want to play it stealthy, and a laser sight just in case you end up being the last resort to push the objective and you need to use your NVGs. An alternative to the SCAR is the M4, although it's not as efficient as the SCAR. Gadget wise, always confirm with the rest of your team if you need to take your NVGs, but based on my experience I really find it useful to take maybe 2 grenades, either 2 frag grenades or a frag grenade and a flash grenade, and I sometimes find the C2 charge pretty useful when I need to destroy a door that is right at the balcony and I want to then go back on the balcony and provide Overwatch through the funnel. So beside the loadout, what else do you need? But first, map knowledge. Like I said earlier, it's important for you to know the maps inside out, so good spots for Overwatch and good spots where defenders are likely to hide are kind of connected, and you need to know both. So your experience as a defender is very important, and I will talk a little bit more about that later. So map knowledge to know where to set your Overwatch, but also how to get there as quickly as possible on your own, since you may not start with the rest of your team to get where you need to be. In fact, you will quite often start on your own, since you may need to spawn at a location that is convenient for you, but not for the rest of the team. Second, communication. Communication is really important since you will be providing vital information to the rest of your team before they breach. You may quite often be in a position where you have more intels on what's going on near an objective, or behind a door, or in a room and so on. And quite often, you will be responsible for clearing and neutralizing whatever threats that are waiting for your team. So communicate whatever you see, communicate what you do and what you don't do, what you could do and what you couldn't do with your team, so that it makes it easier for them to breach. Third requirement, solo play skills. As I said earlier, you might often have to reach your Overwatch spot on your own without any backup. It might not always be safe to get there, but you need to be able to handle yourself on your own to avoid taking a member away from the breaching team. Fourth requirement, patience. If you're not a patient player and you just want to roam around and get actions and kills, do not be the one providing Overwatch. Providing Overwatch means being patient. It means being able to stay in a specific spot until the enemy potentially makes a mistake, and it's not even sure you will actually see anyone during the round. But it is vital that you remain at your spot until the round is won, since your team relies on you to cover them. So let's talk and recap what makes a good Overwatch player in your team when attacking. Someone with good map knowledge and someone who can think like a defender so they can better anticipate their locations and defending tactics. This is really important since it impacts your choice of location to provide Overwatch for the team. Someone who is quick at getting where they need to be, just like everything else, someone who is also good at communicating information with the rest of their team, and someone who is patient and not KD driven. You are capable of staying at your spot for as long as you need, assuming you could encounter enemies at any moment.
Here are some of my favorite spots where I like to provide Overwatch. On Tower House at the ground floor, next to the storage room, especially if the double doors are open. On the first floor, at the dining room, the windows facing east, you can look into the dining room and the whole room through the double doors, which is pretty good if someone is pushing towards the main entrance. Same thing, but on the second floor you can look through the windows on the east side and check the dining room and the whole room and also the small storage room facing north. If you prefer starting at the backyard like I do and you want to provide Overwatch at the first floor, you can also go to the north wall and look through the windows into the whole room. You can also do the same on the second floor. The only difference here is that you have the balcony, so you actually have a direct access into the flat. And what I usually like doing here is taking a C2 charge with me, and I will break the door at the balcony, and that would give me a good overview on the kitchen that is right next to the main entrance, which is usually going to be the main point of entry for the rest of the team, and quite often you're gonna have a defender hiding in this kitchen, so that allows me to cover the entrance just right from the balcony. Moving on to the next map, which is Residential House. Again, many opportunities to provide very good Overwatch on this map. We're gonna start with the wall on the east side, close to the spawn. You can provide good Overwatch into the entire dining room. Now, there is a bit of a challenge with this spot. Because there is not much room on the left and the right hand side of the windows, the defenders have an easy time to see your cable, because it's displayed at all time, so they can more or less guess where you're going to be. That's where flash grenades can be very useful. From the balcony on the left side of those windows, you can also provide good Overwatch looking at the double doors at the kitchen, so if anyone is trying to get into this large room, you're gonna see them. Same from the bedroom on the right. The Overwatch you could provide on the east side, you can do exactly the same from the west side. The difference here is that you have a little bit less cover because there is a balcony, so there are a lot less props in front of you. However, you have a bit more space on the left and the right hand side of the balcony, so you can actually hide on the sides and try to avoid the defenders from seeing where you are going to be unless you are crossing the balcony from the left to the right side. Another very good Overwatch spot that you can find is on the ground floor. If you spawn at the backyard and then you look towards the kitchen and the maid room into this corridor, you can provide Overwatch from the outside. And because it's so dark, it's very hard for the defenders to actually see if there's someone outside. So that allows you to prevent anyone from leaving the kitchen or going into the kitchen from the corridor or the office and the living room. Really good spot there, especially when it's very dark. Another very good spot, and still on the ground floor, is the corridor connecting the living room, the office room and the toilet to the dining room. And what I like doing here is taking a C2 charge with me and destroying the door and then hiding on the right hand side instead of opening the door from the left side and then crossing the corridor to go on the right side and exposing myself. Another spot where I like to use the C2 charge is at the door of the kids room at the first floor, and basically I go to the balcony, then I vote into the kids room, and then I will put the C2 charge on the door. And this door basically lead into the dining room and then the kitchen and the double doors, and quite often you're gonna have someone hiding at the kitchen or at the stairs right after those double doors, so you can prevent anyone from getting into the dining room through those double doors. Alright, let's move on to the next map, which is Hotel Trouble, and obviously my favorite spot is on the 4th floor balcony. And basically what you can do here is provide Overwatch through the double doors all the way to the end of the corridor. You can also take a C2 charge with you there, and if you put it on the double doors, that will allow you to open them without exposing yourself too much. Just remember, this spot can sometimes be blocked by props as well. It depends on the procedural prop placement setup you get. You can more or less do the same on the 3rd floor. If you go to the balcony and then room 207, you can provide Overwatch through this corridor all the way to the housekeeping room and basically prevent anyone from going to room 201 through this corridor, especially if they hide in room 203. You can also provide Overwatch at the end of this corridor, so on the west side if you go to the balcony, and then you can again have a really good view on room 201, the staircases and the linen room and the housekeeping room. So basically if you have two people here providing Overwatch from the end of the corridor, room 207 and this spot, you basically cover all angles that grant access to the objective. This is a really good tactic. A couple of other spots that are pretty useful is, for instance, the one where you can provide Overwatch into the cafeteria, but from the outside by climbing the stairs, as in rappelling the stairs. Not a lot of defenders know this, and it's kind of like a surprise to them when they get killed from the outside, because you can actually get a pretty good view on what's happening in the cafeteria. You can also provide Overwatch like this from the stairs, from the outside, but into the different floors through the red doors. And what I like doing is, let's say, asking a breaching team to open the door for me, and then I will scout, from the stairs. And because I'm so far from the door, defenders won't expect me to be actually there. Okay, another map, and this one is going to be Military Airport, and that's gonna be the last one for this video. Obviously, you can provide Overwatch on pretty much every map. There are just some maps have better spots than others. But on Military Airport, the obvious one is, obviously the pilot room. If you go at the front of the plane, you can shoot through the windows and you can see if someone is hiding in the pilot room, and you can also ask someone to open the double doors, and you can see if someone is trying to push the pilot room through the double doors from the hallway, especially if the objective is actually in the pilot room. You can more or less do the other way around as well. If you go to the hatch at the back of the plane, then you can go to the hallway and then provide Overwatch from the other side of the double doors, making sure that you don't have a lot of people camping there or pushing the pilot room from that side of the plane. So both work. You could have one or the other on this map. You could have both at the same time. It really depends on how your team is working together and your resources as well, depending on how many weapons you have left.
So that's it for this video, talking about the role of the Overwatch player in 0 Hour and how important it is in PvP. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and to tell me in the comments below if providing Overwatch is your favorite thing to do in PvP as well. If you're interested in more educational content in the future, don't forget to support the channel by subscribing and ticking the bell to never miss any of my future videos. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.